take 4, because I realize half the things I say will just get me another strike if a fan of Mags reports it to YouTube. Click the links to send me your Comicsgate project to be edited. One guy sent a project in and I couldn't edit it because it was just simple and perfect the way it was. All the stuff that people have sent me has been very good. Sometimes the only problem I've noticed is that first-time writers are too ambitious. They want to include all these plot twists and turns. Just forget all that. Focus on telling a simple story very well. Have likable characters do heroic things. Focus on the dialogue. Just the dialogue is what you want. More dialogue and less world buildings. Oh, and thanks for the recent subs on Bitchute. It should be mathematically impossible to grow faster on Bitchute than on YouTube, but YouTube is playing some funny algorithmic games. And I posting more political stuff only on Bitchute because YouTube would just strike it. And Bitchute is really, the Bitchute audience is more along the lines of dudes polishing their 223s and sitting on just cases and cases of Liberty Device Freedom pellets. Hashtag 7 figures young lady. Congratulations to Cyberfrog on making $1 million. The first, what's his face's book was the first to hit. I think did Doug's book hit $1 million? I'm not sure. I'm one of the whatever it was called. I think it hit $1 million. And I guess at the time it was probably Comicsgate, but anyway, congratulations to EVS. That's an amazing accomplishment. It reflects very well on him and his talent and his team. Kyle Ritter and all the John Malin, I think, helped work on something. And it also reflects well on Comicsgate. If people could just, a little bit more coming together to help the people, the artists and writers in Comicsgate, or at least the people who loosely associate and align themselves with the Comicsgate side of the political spectrum. There's enough of the pie to go around. You don't need to have this just non-stop, incessant infighting. Anyway, so I saw Mags' tweet about Sean Gordon Murphy love bombing them, which is a term from cults where you have usually beautiful young ladies who try to get awkward young guys into a cult by just being really, really nice to them. And then they kind of withhold affection when they don't do what the cult wants them to do. And if you don't know Mags, it's a chubby Italian guy who dresses like a chubby Italian lady because Mags is absolutely insane. I better skip the joke about Vagrant Queen flopping harder than Mags' limp lady censored after hormone therapy. I remember when Mags was tweeting about the shows Vagrant Queen, Mags promised not to go all Hollywood and leave their true love of comics behind. Hollywood doesn't want Vagrant Queen. And to be fair, the show writer should have just taken the rough idea of Vagrant Queen and went from there. But networks keep getting woke. The funny thing is, nobody wants it. Not even people on the far left watch woke shows. Woke kids just watch normie shows and pay lip service to whining about political correctness on Twitter. Woke shows are so bad you get the feeling that they're not concerned about money, which sounds kind of weird until you see so much evidence of them not being concerned about money and being concerned about ideology. Mags' basic complaint is that a talented guy, SGM, was nice to Mags, and Mags repaid that kindness by, I was going to say effing him in the A. I'll say attacking him. And Mags overstepped herself here. I was going to say stepped on her dick, but that's probably a hate strike. It was a tactical error, this whole tweet thing. It tells normies who would have mentored BLT people that no good deed goes unpunished, and it's going to backfire like Me Too did. Men just won't work with women. Mags brought this non-issue up and tried to compare it to real abuse that goes on in the industry, because apparently people in comics, mainstream comics, are filthy, perverted, wicked degenerates. Gee, who didn't see that one coming? So this whole thing was kind of bad optics for Mags' side of the political spectrum. And people on Twitter say that SGM should immediately get on the phone with his attorney. But if you pause for a minute and you read the atmosphere of the Twitter room, you're going to see that that's just not necessary. Mags did not get a whole lot of support for this. Mags screwed up here. She made herself look crazy. The allegation is SGM was nice to Mags, so Mags would keep the woke crowd off his back, i.e. SGM didn't want to spend all day beating SJWs off. And yes, I know I had to stretch for that joke. I don't even care. The implication is that Mags is capable of this, and two, that SGM needs a shield, implying that SGM did something nefarious and Mags was willing to put aside principles and morals and offer herself, and I can't believe I have to use female pronouns to describe Mags Musachio, as a shield. That's sort of a stupid thing to admit to, because Mags clearly said that that is exactly what they did. And doesn't that make Mags the bad guy person? Mags is openly admitting that she is a sellout. And what is SGM's sin? That he isn't exactly an SJW? He's not exactly a far-right Republican. Is that all it takes in the mainstream comic industry to be a wrong thinker? EVS and the Comicsgate guys were genius to get out when they did. The hostility of a mainstream work environment would be insane right now. What would happen if you had an American flag across a MAGA symbol on your profile? What if you said that BLM Antifa was a racist terrorist group? What if you said, gee, I wish BLM would stop struggle snuggling and murdering women? The communists in comics would attack you. They would say that they don't feel comfortable working with you. Translation, they want you fired. Which is how we get to where we are now. Comics are little more than racist Bolshevik propaganda because over the years they have oppressed and marginalized the diverse voices of the indigenous people of the right of center. They want diverse voices only if they think exactly as they do, i.e. they don't want diverse voices at all. When you read their comics, you catch a terrifying glimpse into their minds. They are totalitarians who will punish you for thought crimes. They will judge you on your religion, ethnicity, or sex. And they are very, very petty. They are kids who frame their participation ribbons, and they are enraged when they see someone succeed on merit. That's why that is one of the reasons I'm very, very glad to see Comicsgate's success, and I wish EVS's Cyberfrog 2 would have hit $5 million, but $1 million is good enough for the second campaign. Seeing an alternative platform like Comicsgate that they don't control drives them crazy. Power is slowly slipping through their fingers. Now here's the thing. The combination of Wu-Flu and the Antifa BLM riots is a pretty serious hit for their industry. Digital sales are going to wreck them. I was wondering who the hell buys Squirrel Girl type comics, because usually SJWs don't put their money where their mouth is, and how will digital comics are going to do and what effect it would have on the writing style and tone of the mainstream comics. And I think I solved some of that puzzle. I was listening to these small comics live streams. It's guys in their 30s and 40s who show off their collections. So they'll hold up a bagged and boarded Ms. Marvel, and talk about the cover art or the characters, but they don't talk about the story because they never open the comic and read it. Probably because they know it's SJW crap. These guys are on the left from what I can tell, but probably not SJWs, because it's rare that you find a 30-year-old male straight SJW. By 30, they've got too much life experience and they see what horrible people SJWs are. But they are collecting the physical object itself. The story is of much less importance. They don't even seem to be interested in the people who put the comic together or in supporting them. They want the object to put in a box or put on the shelf. It doesn't matter if it has no resale value. For whatever reason, they are wired to buy these objects, these physical objects. Some of it may have to do with completing a collection. They're getting some kind of dopamine hit or acetylcholine or serotonin or whatever. So they got $250 worth of the latest Squirrel Girl run, all 50 issues, which is worth, I assume, less than what they paid for it. But for some reason, it has value to them. Now enter digital comics. They have no value to these guys. They don't read the stories. They can't put it on the shelf. They can't show off the physical object to their friends on YouTube. So I'm assuming that sales aren't doing too well. The comic book stores near me are, quote, temporarily closed, but that can only go on for so long before it becomes permanent. So in a normal industry, everyone would get together and say, hey, because of this China flu and the BLM riots, we need to stop with the SJW stuff. That's not selling. We got to write stuff that has more mainstream appeal. We need to make some money, and the SJW stuff is effing us in the A, but that would require future thinking, and the people in comics don't give two shits about the next generation. because Sana Amanat, Gail Simone, Kelly Thompson, Kelly Sue DeConnick don't care about the art of comics, because in general it's not a female hobby. To the women in comics and many of the guys, it's just a stepping stone, or in some cases for the hardcore Bolsheviks, it's the only way to push their propaganda. Which makes me wonder, even if they had a perfect socialist utopia, what would it look like? I am not sure how it would work in America when you've got 100 million people who take more out of the system than they pay in. But I guess we'll find out in 20 years, because like it or not, that is where we are headed. Anyway, the last time the retailers had an industry meeting about comics, the shill media tried to make an issue when retailers referred to black characters as black. I'm not sure why. The media also said that retailers were complaining about too many females, BLTs, POC characters, and SJW storylines. So they were trying to explain that this stuff wasn't selling and they wanted less left-wing politics in comics. But Bleeding Cool just ignored that argument and implied that the retailers were Austrian corporals because they didn't want to go out of business. If you have a meeting of industry people to discuss why sales are down, and they say the reason is too much diversity, too many alternative covers, but then Bleeding Cool attacks them for addressing the issue honestly, well then why ask a question if you don't want the answer? That's what political correctness is. It's being forced to ignore the elephant in the room. So none of the decision makers are able to tell the writers to stop with the SJW stuff because they don't want to. They are hardcore Bolsheviks. Or the writers would just go public on Twitter. There is no business decorum in comics. Robbie the Rectum Rodriguez sent a picture of his butthole to EVS. Not just his butt, but the actual anus itself. That is accepted behavior because they think EVS is a Austrian from the 1930s. SJWs in comics come to an industry, change it until it's no longer recognizable, destroy it, all the while they give themselves awards for excellence. But they don't give themselves awards for sales. Odd. Mags has awards for Kim and Kim and Eternity Girl, comics that were selling 1,000 copies by issue 5, then canceled by issue 6. Is there room for people like Mags and the rest of these low sellers in a post-Wooflu BLM world? Oddly enough, sort of. If you're selling digital stuff, it's no skin off the company's nose if you only sell 900 issues. They're not going to pay you a salary, they'll just pay you a percentage. If you sell 1,000 issues on paper, it grosses $4,000. Now digitally, it won't make that much, but the production shipping costs are much less. So if somebody wants to write Ms. Marvel for $400 a month, split 3 or 4 ways, hey, knock yourself out. What the future holds for the comic industry is going to depend on the brick and mortar stores, and I think most people realize Wooflu is not that serious, so hopefully the retail environment will return to normal. But politicians think that destroying the economy hurts Trump, so they're playing up Wooflu, which might work, except that Joe Biden has obvious dementia, and he is no way fit for any office where decisions actually matter. But he's the best the DNC can come up with, so yay us. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys, and I'll see you all next episode.